Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today we're doing kind of a quick, silly video. We're going to be making some little paper ghosts. So I have 1-inch thick white quilling paper and also a little bit of black. I have the 1/8 inch here as well. If you have thinner black paper, like the 1/16 inch or 2mm, 1mm even, you can use that instead. We're only using a tiny bit. So I'm going to be cutting my 1/8 inch in half since more people might have that as an option. Use whatever quilling tool you like. I'm going to be using a needle tool, also some tweezers and small scissors. For glue, I have my Elmer's glue wall in a needle nose container, and then I'm also going to be using a little bit of tacky glue. I'm going to be building some of my ghost on my board here covered in parchment paper. So I have that. I do have some pins, but you might not need them. And you also may want to grab a small paintbrush. Now to get started, we're going to be building our ghost in 4 different parts, and they're going to be 4 different sizes. The first size we're going to be making is from 2 strips of 18-inch paper that are going to be glued end to end. So it's going to be one really long strip. And to do that, I tear off the ends because the torn paper will make a nicer, smoother seal. So I only applied a little bit of glue to one and then sandwiched the next strip right on top, just a little bit overlapping. And you want to make sure that they're as straight as possible. And then we're going to go to one end and just start rolling. Like I said, you can use whatever tool you want for this one. I will say, because this strip is so long, it does get a little bit hard to handle as you're going, especially if you're using a needle tool. So when I get about halfway here, I'm going to have to take it off my tool and finish rolling it by hand, and that's okay. Some people do all their quilling by hand and don't use tools at all, so it will work just fine. And we're just going to speed ahead here until we are at the end. Now, once we are done rolling this all the way to the end, we're going to be turning it into what I'm going to call a loose, tight coil. So a tight coil would mean that we're gluing this as soon as it finishes rolling. We're not letting it open up at all. A loose coil, we would let it open up as much as it wants to naturally. We're going to just let it open up a tiny bit. So you can see I'm holding it between my fingers and just sort of letting go just slightly to get just a little bit of space between those layers. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to have the nice dense shape of all the layers together like a tight coil, but we're going to be squeezing this into a curved teardrop. And that gets really tricky with a tight coil because it's just hard to squeeze. So you can see now at this point I have it in a teardrop, which means I just squeezed one side. And then I'm going to bend it just slightly between my fingers, or you can also use the side of a tool like this, just bend it over. We just need a little bit of a curve at the bottom there. Like I said, if I didn't open this up at all, like a tight coil, that would be even harder to do. It's not easy the way we did it, but we still want to have that nice, dense, white shape there. We don't want a lot of air between the layers. If you have trouble with that, you're welcome to open it up a little bit more. That will be fine as well. Now the next part we're doing is going to be just one 18-inch strip of paper. So we're doing the same technique here. We're going to be rolling it up all the way from end to end. And then we're going to be making another looser, tight coil. So here we go again. We're just going to a little bit open up my fingers. And I like to hold the eye of the coil in my other hand to make sure that stays as much in the center as I can get it. Glue down the end, give it a pinch on one side, and then a little bit of a bend to that as well. Whatever direction you want to do your bend in is fine, because they're only going to go together one way. In a second here when we start putting the pieces together. Now, like I said a little bit ago, this is made in 4 parts. So I have the 2 strips of 18-inch, the one 18-inch, this is 10 inches, and then that one is 8 inches. So these are going to be the 4 parts of our ghost. We're going to use some tacky glue now to start to put them together. I'm just going to make a little pile here on the end, and then I'm just going to use my needle tool to apply the glue. Now, the first thing we're going to do is take the two larger pieces, the points facing each other, and just sort of get the ends touching. So a little bit of glue here. You can use a toothpick if you want to. However you like to apply your glue is fine. And then just get those two kind of nestled in together into this shape here. And that's going to be the main body of our ghost. And let that dry for a little bit. If you'd like to use some pins here, you can. It probably won't need it, but it is an option. You can also just hold this as it dries, but you might not want to do that if you're making a whole little ghost army. I don't know. So I have these here together. They are drying. After a few minutes, you can take your pins out. And now we're going to put our little ghosty arms on. This is the slightly bigger one. This is about 10 inches. And I made these the same way, kind of that looser tight coil. So I applied a little bit of glue to the arm and then a little bit of glue to the body as well. It's going to meet kind of right here in this little crook of the body. So that's one arm. And then the other little arm is going to be kind of winging out from the other side. So a tiny bit of glue there. And I'm just putting this on my workboard on the parchment so it doesn't stick to anything. You don't have to use this if you just want to hold it together in your hands, like I said, while it dries. That's okay too. Now we're going to let that set for a little bit. And this last part is not necessary to make your ghost. It's not going to add too much to the finished look, but I'm going to wrap the entire ghost with another strip of that same white paper just to kind of finish it and make all those pieces sort of come together and look a little bit more like it's one finished piece. And my glue is set a little bit there on my board, so I'm going to add a little bit more glue here. I only need a tiny, tiny bit. Now to start this, I like to do my wrapping. I like to start and finish in a spot where you're not really going to notice it. So I'm choosing where one of the arms meets the body on the bottom. And I just put a little bit of glue right in that little crook of the arm. And I tore off the end of this white strip as well. Tuck it in there. Just kind of rub it with my needle tool just to get it to stick nicely. And then it's just a matter of wrapping the rest of this little ghost body with this strip, but I'm going to add some glue as I go. You can use Elmer's for this if you'd rather. I'm just using the tacky glue. Just really get that nice and snug, and then wherever you meet another indent, you're going to kind of push it, that strip down in there. Add a little bit more glue. And I like to do this in sections just to make sure that my glue isn't drying. And I will mention also, if you are using the same needle tool for applying glue as you are to making your coils, you're going to want to make sure that you really clean your needle tool off when you're done, because even just one little speck of glue will cause your coils to not come off your tool nicely, and it'll stick like it'll pull on the layers and it will get stuck, and it's annoying. Sometimes I forget to do that before I start rolling again, and then I ruin a coil or two. So even if you think your tool is clean, just go ahead and just wash that off again. The A-leans will come off with water on that metal tool pretty nicely. So I'm just going around the rest of the ghost body here, adding a little bit of glue, tucking into any folds and bends, and just making sure that it stays nice and snug and it's not coming off the sides. Everything's nice and even. I'm about where I started. I'm just doing one layer here. I'm going to use my tool to bend the strip down into the spot where I want to end it, back at that same place where we started. And that also gives me a little bit of a good guide of where to tear off the paper. If you don't feel comfortable tearing it, you can snip that with scissors. That's okay. I have a little bit of glue to end it and tuck that piece in there. And unlike some wrapping jobs that I do in other videos, this is not to add any extra design or anything other than just to make sure that everything kind of pulls together nicely. It just, like I said, it makes it look just a little bit more finished. Now, the last part to our ghost is just to add some face features. Most of my little ghosties just have eyes on them, but you can add whatever you like. So I have a 1/8 inch wide piece of quilling paper here, and I'm going to use some small scissors and just cut that in half to make 2 thinner pieces. I showed in the beginning of the video that you can use pre-cut thinner pieces if you like, but not everybody has a lot of different sizes and different colors. And since we're only using a tiny bit, it really takes no trouble just to cut this down the center. And then it's just a matter of rolling your little strips around whatever tool you like. I would recommend for this part, if you have a needle tool, to use it instead of a slotted tool. These pieces are so small, you're not really going to notice the little crimp in the center, but you may, and that may bother you. So if you use a needle tool, you won't see that little bend in the center, because we are just going for just circles without anything in the middle. So I have a tiny little circle here, and then I'm just going to smush it down in the middle. I just wanted mine to be a little bit more oval shaped. And I have 2 that are the same size. Just going to apply those with some tweezers right onto the top here. And I like mine to be kind of going at an angle just to make them a little bit different. So these ones are going to kind of be angled towards the top. Little droopy ghost eyes. And that's the second one. A little uneven, but that's okay. We have a couple seconds before this glue will set. And that's about it. They're just silly, you know. There's probably a lot of other ghosts out there that might look a little bit different than these, but I'm just looking for something to add to my fall quilling. Here's one with a little open mouth circle. I guess he's saying boo on there. So there you go. Just a little accent to your fall crafts. You can flip these in the other way to have them floating in the other direction if you want to. Play around with the faces. Do whatever you like. I do have an entire fall playlist of quilling crafts that I will leave in the description box for this video. I'll also leave links to all the supplies that I used as well. You can also find a link there for my Buy Me a Coffee page, where you can find some quilling extras, find different ways to support the channel and keep it growing so I can keep making new videos. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be around for my next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.